Emily, of course, is our membership supervisor. So if you guys don't know her, she's your one that's going to take care of all of your membership needs. So if you do need something or you want to thank her for all the amazing work that she is doing, please do that. So thank you, Emily and Gail, for helping us do our member virtual chats. This is, I don't know, 5th or 6th one now that we have done. And as I said, this is a very exciting one because we are traveling to North America. This is one of our North American animals. We have our grizzly bears, our brown bears, and then we have our North American alligator. And we're traveling all the way to the southeastern part of the United States, which is where our American alligator is found, to say hi to our 23-year-old American alligator. And his name is Bayou Bob, or he also goes by Lafayette. So it kind of depends. He's kind of a sassy alligator. But so right now, I'm going to kind of turn this around, and we're being helped by Ashley. So Ashley is our alligator keeper over there. And again, we're going to be social distancing. I don't have my mask on. She has hers on at the moment. But when our alligator comes over to her, she's actually going to take the mask off because he doesn't really like masks. And then, of course, we have our alligator. So hang on. I'm going to move our camera, and we're going to see our alligator. Woo! There he is. Okay, so this is Bayou. And what Ashley is doing is giving him a bath. And so we have that hose right there. And what Ashley realized when she was spraying the hose, just cleaning off the pool, was that he was very attracted to that water and then wanted to hang out and stay in that water and get it on his head, get it on his back, and is very attracted to it. And a lot of that may due to one of the alligator's great adaptations, which is the dermal pressure receptors. So alligators have these great receptors that are around their snout that allows them to sense vibration. There he is, sense vibration. And that, of course, is going to help them to find food. But that's probably what he first noticed with the water pressure going into the water. And then as you see, he just likes being sprayed right on the top of the head. So this is a North American alligator. He's probably about 9 feet, maybe around 300, 400 pounds, 300 pounds, I think we said, right, Ashley? Around 300 pounds. We haven't got him on a scale in a little bit, so we're kind of estimating a little bit of that. So you guys can probably not get a good size of him because he is in the water and we've got that refraction that's happening, but he's about 9 feet. And the North American alligator is the largest alligator species. There is only 2, so there is the Chinese alligator and the American alligator. And these guys are all part of a family group called the crocodilians. So a lot of people will say, well, they're kind of crocodiles. Well, they're different, but they are part of the crocodilian order. And within there, we have our alligators, we have our crocodiles, we have our caiman, and our garrels. So those are the 4 different species of crocodilians. And then, of course, we have our North American alligator and our Chinese alligator. These guys, full grown, can get about 14 feet and weigh about 500 pounds. Now, of course, that's going to vary between the males and females and individuals, but that's about the average. The Chinese alligator is going to be much smaller than that. They only get about 7 feet, 8 feet, and weigh only about 100 pounds. And we can tell the difference between our alligator and crocodile. He's giving you a great look at his nose right there. And that nose is that broad or that U-shaped nose, where our crocodiles are going to have more of a V-shaped nose. And the other thing is we can see maybe his teeth. I'm going to move the camera here for a sec. Hold on. Woo! Let's see if we can get this right here. I don't want to get the camera too close because these guys will talk about them being an ambush predator. But yeah, that's a better look at his teeth right there. So you can see that his teeth, if he has his mouth closed, you can kind of see them, but not really. They don't really overlap on top of the gums. Oh, our lemurs are getting excited. Our black and white rough lemurs are just adjacent to us behind us here. You might be able to see them or hear them calling, vocalizing. So not an animal from North America. Obviously, our lemurs are from Madagascar. So our crocodiles will have teeth that overlap each other. And so those are 2 great ways that we can tell the difference between them. Now, crocodiles and alligators can inhabit the same area. The one place that happens is in the southeastern part of the United States. So we do have some crocodiles that are living down there and alligator species. We typically will see alligators in North America from about middle of Texas, going up across Louisiana, Mississippi, up into the Carolinas, and then of course down into Florida. And the alligator is really a great success story, a conservation success story. This is an ancient species. It is the largest reptile in North America. And it's a species that's been around for estimated around 230 million years. So a very, very long time. Of course, they have changed a little bit from the prehistoric alligators and crocodiles, the crocodilians, but it is a species that has a very, very long history and is one that is very important in the ecosystems that they live in. So these guys are considered a keystone species. And what that means is that their existence is integral to the survival of that habitat. They are an apex predator, which means that they are at top of the food chain in where they live. We're gonna have a helicopter fly over us, so it might get a little muddy on audio here, so hang on. There we go. Sometimes it's hard to talk when we got our planes and helicopters flying over us. So again, as a keystone species, that means that typically they're top of the food chain, and they really are going to control a lot of those smaller mammals. So their diet is going to consist, when they're youngsters, of insects, then fish and smaller mammals, sometimes larger mammals. It's fairly rare for North American animal or alligator to take down large prey like a deer, but they can do that. But they keep down a lot of those prey animals, a lot of those pests, where those apex predators, if we don't have them, then those prey animals are going to go unchecked and they can devastate an ecosystem. So very, very important for the ecosystem. They're also what we would call eco-engineers. And so what they will do is they will dig these holes, which they kind of bromate in, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then those holes will fill up with water. And during a dry season, those could be some of the only water holes for a very long period, a very long distance. And so they're kind of the eco-engineers. So not only do they keep down on prey species, but they also, a lot of other species will depend on them for water and nutrients. So Ashley is done kind of hosing them off here, and we're going to throw in a head of lettuce. Now, these guys are carnivores, so they don't really eat lettuce, but we do a lot of what we call enrichment here at the zoo. And now you can see that, look at that reaction. And enrichment can be anything that kind of changes up the day-to-day life of the animal. And it doesn't always have to be something that they eat, but something maybe that they like to play with. And he kind of likes to bite down on this lettuce. Now he might consume a little bit, which is fine. It doesn't matter. The majority in, part of his diet, of course, is going to be meat. As I said, these guys are eating small mammals. They'll eat fish. They'll eat insects. Here at the zoo, he likes to eat rats and rabbits and then fish. And we also will feed him a special type of meat that we feed all of our carnivores. So our lions, our jaguar, it's a special type of meat that we're feeding our carnivores. And we can wrap some alligator biscuits in there, and he really enjoys that. Now, you got to see a little bit of that strike force, or that bite that he showed you with that lettuce. And that's what these guys are known for. So these guys are kind of known for that extreme bite force. Ashley's just going to move that lettuce a little bit around, maybe see if he wants to play with it. There he goes. Look at alligators don't have the strongest bite force in the world. That's going to be to our crocodiles, but a very, very powerful one. These guys estimated at about 3,700 pounds per square inch. 3,700. The saltwater crocodile is going to be a little bit above that. The alligator is about 2,200 pounds. The saltwater crocodile is about 3,700 pounds. And the Nile crocodile is about 5,000 pounds. So 5,000 pounds per square inch is the strongest bite force ever measured. Just to give you an example, a human, you guys have a bite force, an adult has a bite force of about 180 pounds per square inch. So at 2,200 pounds, This animal has a tremendous bite, and you can see kind of the muscles on the side of his head, and all these muscles are designed to clamp down. They don't have very strong muscles to open their mouth, but they have very powerful muscles to clamp down. So that's that meat that we were talking about wrapped in an alligator biscuit that he's going to kind of chomp on there, and then giving you a good look. So the very, very powerful bite, and typically what they're going to do is grab a hold of their prey and swallow it in one bite if it's small enough, or if it's a large animal, like if a crocodile is going to take down a large animal like a zebra or a wildebeest. Oh, lost my audio, or lost my video. Then what they're going to do is they're going to kind of wait for that animal to either rot and start taking off bites, or, there we go, or they're going to take bites and spin and do what's called that death roll that we all know, using that tremendous tail, the power of that tail right there, to turn and spin, take chunks off, and then swallow them whole. These guys do not chew their food. They are just going to swallow it whole. So extremely powerful animal, and one that we are cautious with, and that we can go in and do some training with. So what we're going to see is Ashley is going to try to do some target training, and target training is what we do with all of our animals. Now, any of our powerful animals, we always have a protective barrier between us and that animal. So you can see a target stick come in right there. So Ashley is in with our alligator, but there's a protective barrier in that he is in the water. Now, they can be very quick in the water, which is why we're not going swimming with them, but they can't really jump out of that water and start running across land. And so the barrier for us with this animal is, of course, going to be our water, and that's our protective barrier. So any of our powerful animals, and I got a great email from doing this. I was saying dangerous animals, and I got a great email that gave me a suggestion to use powerful animals instead of dangerous, because that's exactly correct. We use kind of danger in this, sensational way, and these are powerful animals. They're only dangerous if you make a mistake. If you go into their area, if you get too close to them, that's you making a mistake on them. And calling them dangerous animals does give them a negative perception, negative connotation. And I do like the word powerful rather than dangerous. So I'm going to start using that. See, even I can learn some new stuff every single day, which is what I love about this industry, is we learn new stuff every single day. So this is considered a powerful animal. So is an ostrich, so is a zebra, an elephant, a rhino, a lion, a jaguar. And so we do have protective barriers, but we use target training to try to move an animal from one spot to the other. And it's all voluntary. So it's up to him if he wants to participate in training. Some days he's super excited, some days he's not, and that's fine. And by moving him from one spot to another, it allows Ashley to get a really good look at him and to be able to see what he's doing. And it also allows our vet to be able to look at his whole body. And eventually, we're going to train him to go onto a scale. So by moving him, we can voluntarily ask him to step onto a scale and potentially even do a blood draw from a tail. And so training is essential for us to give the amazing care that we give. And now every animal is a little bit different in what they want to train, how they train, and what behaviors they may be interested in. And we have to kind of vary that training depending on the species. So if we're working with a mammal, if we're working with a primate, a bear, an elephant, even a bird or a reptile, that training may vary depending on the individual and depending on the species. Now, earlier I was talking about that alligators are a conservation success story. And that's because, unfortunately, in the 40s, the 30s and 40s, leading up to the 50s, these animals were almost hunted to extinction. And about a few million every year were killed for their meat and for their skin, to make different products like boots and bags and wallets and belts. And in 1967, the alligator went onto the endangered species list, which made it illegal to be able to go and hunt these animals, and proper protection for their habitat was set in place. And this was critical because remember I said these are a keystone species, an apex predator. So if you remove a keystone species or an apex predator from their ecosystem, that entire ecosystem could fail. And so it's extremely important to be able to protect this animal. And so it took about 20 years, and the species really made a comeback. And in 1987, they were taken off the endangered species list. And that's due to a couple reasons. First, because we had proper protection. Also because they set up commercial farming. And so there is still commercial farming of alligators. But what that did was it took the pressure off of our wild alligators for people trying to illegally hunt or poach them. And by doing that, we saw them come back in their wild and native habitats. And so now these animals are considered least concern. It is still illegal to go and just kill and hunt an alligator or to take them as a pet. Do not take this animal as a pet. They may look cute as babies, but they get very big and don't fit in bathtubs at this size. So unfortunately, a lot of people get these guys as little babies and think they're going to be a great pet. And then they get to this size, they become a very challenging animal to house as a residential pet for you guys. So do not do that. So it is still illegal to do that, but their numbers are coming back. Unfortunately, now alligators are facing another threat, and that's because of our changing climate. So as our climate is warming, we're starting to see warmer summers, even warmer winters. That's causing a big challenge for our alligators because the sex of the alligator is determined by the incubation temperature. So whether or not we have a boy or a girl when they are in the egg is determined due to the temperature that that egg is being incubated at. And so if it's about 86 degrees or below, that's going to typically be a female or a girl. And if it's about 93 degrees or above, that is typically going to be a male or a boy. So 86 degrees is girl, 93 degrees is boy. Well, you can see if we have an increase in temperature, just a few degrees can change the outcome of whether or not it's a boy or a girl. So yeah, we know we're not, increasing a whole bunch every single year, but over the last decade, we've seen a gradual increase in our temperature. And what's that doing is increasing the incubation temperature, which if that continues, then we will have all male alligators, which will decrease the opportunity for breeding for the genetics. And we could see a species go extinct because of that. So researchers are trying to figure out what we can do to help these animals. And some researchers are going in and taking the eggs out of a nest, and they are incubating them at specific temperatures to obtain a good ratio male to female. But it's one that we all really need to focus on. And what we all need to do is try to help to decrease any of our carbon emissions, because of course, that's what's causing our heat with the carbon blanket that's being trapped inside of our ecosystem. And so we can all do our part. We can, carpool, we can ride our bike, decreasing our fossil fuels and our need for that. One of the big things is decreasing our plastic usage. And, those plastic water bottles, just using a reusable water bottle is a huge savings, not only for our landfill, but also to be able to decrease some of our need for that fossil fuel, because it's need to be able to make petroleum, which is needed in making plastic. So those are great ways that we can help out not only the American alligator, but all of our animals, and hope that we still have these great animals in the future. A species that's been around for 230 million years is definitely not one that we want to see go away. And there's such a spectacular animal. Then the crocodile is the largest reptile in the world, the Nile crocodile. They get much larger than our American alligator. It's a great species, one that we definitely want to make sure to keep around. One of the things that I love is the way their body is kind of formed here. And you can see his eyes and his ears are all above the water, but the rest of his body is underneath. That's a great ambush adaptation, that he can sit at a water's edge and just have his eyes and ears and go underwater, creep up on an animal, and then be able to, jump up with those great big hind legs and that tail and grab that animal and bring them down. Alligators can spend about 15 to 30 minutes underwater, but during the colder time, they can actually spend longer. So they can spend, a couple hours underwater. And these guys are a reptile. They are ectothermic. So they have to regulate their body temperature by their environment. So that's going to be their water. That's going to be the outside temperature. We do heat and cool our water depending on what's going on with our environment. And these guys will go into a state of what's called bromation. So it's not a hibernation, but it's a state of inactivity where their body does kind of shut down. So during the colder months, he will lower his blood temperature and he will go off feed. So anywhere from about October to November, getting all the way to March, is when we will see his feeding decrease. And this happens in the wild. They can go 5, 6, 7, 8 months without eating anything. It's an amazing adaptation and a survival mechanism for a reptile to be able to survive in a cold climate. So again, an animal that's been on our planet for as long as they have evolved perfectly to survive in several different environments. Amazing adaptations, and an amazing animal for us to have here at the Reid Park Zoo to not only teach about that great conservation success story, but also such an amazing animal with their adaptations. So with that, I think maybe we'll open it up for some questions. I saw some of them come through. So maybe we'll get to a couple questions here and see what you guys have to say. Emily, what do we got?
Sure. So where did Bayou come from before he was at Reid Park Zoo? And do we know his birthday?
I think we have his birthday on record. I'm not exactly sure. He came from a zoo in Texas. Cameron Park Zoo, actually saying Cameron Park Zoo in Waco, Texas. That's right. And I don't know if we have his exact birthday or not. Some of the animals do come with those. Some of them don't. Some, have estimated birthdays. We know that he's, 23 years old. So we know his 27 years old. Sorry, 27 years old. Ashley's correcting me. That's why we go to our keepers. They know the birth dates and sizes of their animals really well. So 27 years old, but we may not have his exact birth date.
All right. And you were talking about different bite forces. Do you know how the alligator's bite force compares to that of a great white shark?
So great white sharks are less. They're actually around about 1,600 pounds per square inch. Now, I don't know if that's as accurate as it can be, because all the bite force measures that they've gone on the great white shark have been probably not a predatory bite, probably an investigator bite. And so great whites, the largest predatory shark, not really a fish, they're elasmobranchs, but they have this great bite that's going to clamp down on typically a seal, and then they will go back and they kind of have an investigatory bite. And I think all the bite forces that we've measured on great whites have really been those. I don't think we've really been able to measure an actual predatory bite. So I think it's about 1,600. It might be a little bit more. I do believe that the alligator and the crocodiles have a larger bite force. If we're looking at more bite forces, the jaguar, which has the strongest bite force of any cat due to its size, is 1,500 pounds per square inch. A hippo has 1,800 pounds per square inch. So, again, 2,200 pounds for an alligator and 5,000 pounds for a Nile crocodile. There's just nothing that's been measured higher than that.
Awesome. Thank you. Do they see color?
Good question. I believe that they do see color. So they do have receptors in their eyes to be able to see color. They will use their eyes to locate prey along with their nose. So they do have a good sense of smell. And then again, those dermal pressure receptors that are on the sides of their snouts, that's going to alert them of vibrations. So either fish swimming or an animal coming down to the water to be able to drink. So yeah, they're going to use those three senses as their main ones to be able to find and locate their food.
And sort of back to bite, besides bite, how can you tell the difference between a crocodile and an alligator?
Yeah, so one of them is location. So the alligators are going to be hanging out mostly in fresh water. So the crocodiles can go both from fresh and salt water, but if you see a crocodilian in saltwater, most likely that's going to be a crocodile. So region where they're from, where you are in the world, is a good indicator. And then of course the U shape of their nose, of their snout, these guys have a wider, kind of broader nose, where the crocodiles will have more of a narrow V shape. And then again, their teeth. You can't really see Bayou's teeth coming through. With a crocodile, you will. They'll actually come up over their gums. These guys have around 80 teeth in their mouth, and they will grow new ones. So as teeth get broken off or worn down, they will grow new ones. Ashley has found several teeth in the pool. That's a very healthy system for the alligator to kind of replenish their teeth. So their teeth color also. So you can see his coloration. It's kind of this black color. So the saltwater crocodiles have more of a yellowish color. So there's several different ways. I think the biggest way, again, is where you are, where you're located. Alligators can go into brackish water, so they can go into water that does have some salt water, but not really in salt water at all. They don't have the glands that a saltwater crocodile, the crocodiles have, to be able to handle that salt water. So a lot of it's going to be region where you're at.
And we can see that there's a lot of bamboo laid across his pool. Is there a particular reason for that?
Yeah, so alligators like to hide. They like to hide under things. They like to hide under logs. They don't really want to be exposed. Now, they also don't have a great idea of what size dimension is. And so what we've done is we've put these bamboo poles over his pool, so he thinks that he's hiding. So he feels very safe, but it allows us to be able to see him. So it's kind of a little bit of a juke on him that he thinks he's hiding, but we're still able to see him. So he has all the sense of security he needs without completely covering him, so our guests get to see him.
Thank you. Do alligators live in groups, or are they more solitary?
Alligators are more solitary once they're adults. They will come together for breeding. Males are particularly solitary. Larger alligators will feed on, they will cannibalize their own species. So they will feed on younger alligators. So they tend to not want to be in large groups. But for the youngsters, they will kind of all hang out together a little bit as they get bigger, safety in numbers. And then once they get bigger, they really don't hang out too much. Now, you will see areas where alligators will congregate together, and it's not abnormal. A lot of times that has to do with prey. So, of course, everyone probably is envisioning the Great Migration through the Mara River in Tanzania, in Kenya, where we have our great herds. We have millions of animals, wildebeest, zebra, gazelle that are crossing the Mara River. And we'll see large congregations of now crocodiles there waiting for that opportunity to feed. So at those times, you will see them congregate, but as a socialization factor, they really don't need it. So Bayou Bob Lafayette here is very comfortable hanging out in here and owning this pool as his own.
And we had talked a little bit about what he is fed, which includes that special alligator biscuit and some special meat. But what else does he get fed? How often? And can alligators digest bone?
So they can digest bone, and he will eat rats and rabbits and quail. We give him different poultry, some fish, and it's really up to him. So Ashley works with him to change up his palate. And some days he likes one thing, some days he likes another thing. He gets fed 3 times a week during his warmer season. And during the cooler season, as we're entering in and coming out of that cooler season, he gets fed twice a week. And during the cold season, we don't feed him at all. And that's because he doesn't want to eat. So Ashley is really going to work every day with his behavior and see if he's showing that feeding instinct or that feeding behavior as she's observing him. And then that's going to be her clue on to when to feed him and how much to feed him. So again, 3 times a week, and the amounts can vary. Some days he can get a whole rabbit, and then maybe he won't, maybe get a smaller meal the next time. So again, 3 times a week, fish, rats, rabbits, poultry, those are going to be his favorite stuff. And then those alligator biscuits with that Nebraska equine meat that's going to be wrapped around there. So that's the main stuff of what he's going to be eating. I did see a question on lifespan. 27 years old, he is kind of a youngster. These animals can known to live up to 60 to even 80 years. So it's a very long-lived species, and reptiles continue to grow throughout their life. So he will kind of grow a little bit at a time. They grow very fast in the first couple of years, and then they will start to slow down their growth cycle. So he could get anywhere from about 400 to 500 pounds and be about 14 feet, about 13 to 14 feet. The longest North American alligator was about 19 feet, but they typically range about 14 feet as adults, the males. The females will be smaller. So that's kind of how you can tell the difference between the adult males and females, is they are a little bit smaller in size.
And when alligators are in the water, did they move through the water primarily using their feet, or is it more their tail, a combination?
It's going to be a combination, mostly that tail. That tail is extremely muscular and powerful. They will use their feet a little bit, but what they'll typically do is tuck their legs back and use that tail almost like a snake slithering in the water. And they are very efficient at being able to get through the water. They typically aren't going to hunt by stalking their prey, though. So again, this is an ambush predator. Okay, this is not one like a lion that's going to stalk their prey and chase after it and chase that animal down. These guys are really going to wait until an animal gets close to them. Very explosive with their hind legs and their tail and their head to grab a hold of that animal and pull it down in. So they're not going to be running after their animal on land. They can move on land. They're not very efficient at it. And again, they're not going to be swimming after to catch their food like an otter would swim after a fish. But they will use that for locomotion to get from one spot to another. And you can also see the webbed feet down there. So they're very efficient with their feet. I don't know if you can see the webbing down there. Our pool is very clean today, which is nice. Ashley keeps the pool very clean.
Yeah, you can see his webbed feet.
Good.
Actually
Okay.
pretty well. I think this is our last question. So you did say that they're more ambush predators. How do they know when there's prey around? Can they see it? Can they smell it? Is it based on vibrations? Sort of how do they locate that prey?
Again, those dermal pressure receptors that are going to be around their snout is one of the best ways that our crocodilian are going to find their food. They're going to sense vibrations either from the fish or from an animal coming down to be able to drink. And then they do have a good sense of smell and eyesight, where they're going to use those at the very end to locate that prey, jump up and be able to grab a hold of it and again, bring it down in. So, again, the main thing is really, I believe, those dermal receptors that's going to test where those are at. And a lot of times, they know where the animals are going to come down to get drinks. And so they will sit there and wait, and they can sit under the water, 20, 30 minutes at a time, waiting, getting closer. And then again, using those great power legs to boom, jump up and grab a hold of their animal. So yeah, really impressive animal. And so glad you guys were able to join us this morning and learning about our North American alligator, Bayou Bob Lafayette, as we call him here at the zoo. We can't wait for the zoo to open back up so you guys can come in and see our alligator and all the rest of our amazing animals. Again, we don't have a specific date yet on when that's going to happen, but stay tuned. Emily will send that out to all of you members. We'll have it on our social media. We'll have it on our website. We are looking potentially in August, so keep your eyes open because we got a lot of exciting stuff going on here at the zoo that we want you guys to be able to come in and see. I just want to thank you guys for everything that you do and being our zoo members. It means so much to us, especially during this pandemic, to have such an amazing support system. We've had some great highs during this time, and we've lost a few animals, and you guys have been so supportive to get our keepers, our staff through everything. So we thank you for all the support you guys are giving us. It truly means a ton to us. So with that, we're going to sign off. And as always, I'm Jed Dodds, bringing the zoo to you. And stay wild, Tucson. And we'll